Mimosas with Michael. Mimosas with Michael. Mimosas with Michael. Yay!
Hey everybody, it's Michael Colon with Mimosas with Michael, and we're here with another exciting episode introducing you to awesome, wonderful people that I am introduced to. This week I have actually a dear friend of mine who I have not talked to in a couple of years, so this is a nice catch up, but Mike Melo.
Hey, how's it going? How you doing?
I'm doing really good. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right.
I can't believe we get to catch up on my podcast. This is exciting.
I know, this is a very industry.
I know, but what makes it even more industry is that you have directed a movie, and now you get to sit on my podcast and talk about it.
That's right. That's pretty fun.
Yeah,
and get to find out what's going on with you as well. Of course,
everybody knows what's going on with me. I talk about it so much. There's not much going on because we're in the middle of a pandemic.
We are?
Yeah. Oh yeah, you didn't hear?
Oh no.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Oh shit! Wait, are you there?
I'm still here. Are you all right?
I got excited and my computer fell over.
All right, you're frozen right now, but it's a funny still image. There you go.
I'm going to cut that out. Okay.
No.
So, yeah, we're in the middle of a pandemic. I'm trying to stay sane and healthy, which isn't the easiest to do specifically, but I took up photography recently, and that's sort of what's been keeping me sane.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How's that been going?
And actually really good. I just got published in a magazine.
Oh, no kidding. Congrats.
Yeah. I know. I just picked up a camera in January. I know. I feel like one of those people. Like
what do you
I wanted. Just like, why you? But it's because after being in the industry for so long, I just know a lot of models and stuff. So I'm lucky enough to be able to like capitalize on that. I think because when I was practicing, I was like, I really need to learn how to use this camera. You're a model, and it's like you're friends. So it's like, even if you get like 3 or 4 pictures, they're happy to help. But luckily we've been.
Oh, sure.
I've been doing good.
Well, that's something. I mean, I wish I got a little bit more into that. I've sort of like learned like a little bit of every facet. Yeah. I find that photography and cinematography, I mean, that's a whole, I could spend a lifetime learning that, right? So.
Well, it's interesting because like composition, because I do direct and I do work in film, like composition was never something I didn't understand. It was really more just like, and I already know how to direct people. So it was really more just like pressing the camera and sort of like finding those things. So I've noticed that it's kind of helped me a lot in my directing and framing of shots. So that's kind of exciting.
Oh, that's neat, yeah.
Yeah. But you just directed a movie called Sunny Side Up. That's
correct, yes.
And we get to talk about it. Actually, you get to talk about it. I get to just listen to you say all those wonderful things.
Oh, that sounds great.
So you started this movie, and how the whole thing start out? Like, give us the play-by-play.
Sure. The idea came to me. So I'm a person who's like experienced like social anxiety at like different levels throughout my life, right?
What? I can never picture you having social.
I know, it's not funny.
Because I know you in all social settings. That's so interesting.
I know. Well, I think I've learned to like adapt to it, and like I can kind of feel when it's coming on and deal with it, quote unquote. But then when I was thinking about the next film to write, my grandmother had passed. And it was a weird time for me because I was in LA working on stuff, and then I had to go fly back to the East Coast. And, it was just a lot of family, and there were a lot of amends to be made. And, it was a good time in terms of family unity, but devastating in watching my grandmother pass, obviously. And so, and I was also curious about the funeral process at that point. Your mind starts to think about all sorts of things, a lot of the existentialism and whatnot. And so I started processing what it feels like to have social anxiety and to kind of process the funeral aspect and whatever. So I started writing, and I was like, I wanted to sort of write something that could showcase what anxiety might feel like. Because I'm a fan of like films that like immerse you, not just in story, but like what the camera is doing will make you feel a certain way, whatnot. So I wanted to portray at least what I might feel like, or what some other people that I've talked to might feel like. And so that started the process. And then I shadowed a funeral home for a couple of days and kind
Oh,
of like
nice.
researched that, and that was really interesting. And the funeral aspect of life is always portrayed as like this like dark and scary thing, but the way that they wanted things sort of portrayed, it was like a family environment where they kind of help you through the process. So it was really interesting to get all that, and that was the start of it.
And did that help you then deal with like the passing of your grandmother?
Oh, it did.
Sort of
Yeah,
catharsis.
definitely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good.
And I think, I mean, as you know, in the writing process, I mean, some things are quick and some things you're just ruminating over for, months and months or whatever. So that was one of those things where I was writing it. I think it took like a month to actually write, but I was thinking about it for months and months. And so it sort of like helped me process that. And in talking to other people, you kind of learn what people go through. There's a lot of similarities. Now, given this COVID situation, these lockdowns, I think people are a little bit more apt to talk about, sort of experiencing these things. So I think it's interesting.
I feel like social anxiety is one of those things that more people have than more people realize. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I know a lot of people who are fine in small groups, right? But then like the more if you start going into like bigger groups, a lot of people can't handle it. Like I know my cousin is the same way. He's like, the bigger the crowd is, he's like. So I think that that's something that's important. Now I get it. During COVID, people aren't as social because we're not going out. But I'm wondering if people are dealing with anxiety in a different way now, because the anxiety of like not knowing what's going to happen in the future, how long it's going to take before we get a vaccine, how long. I think there's so many other. So what for you? What are you feeling? Because I don't know if you have social anxiety. What are you feeling now?
I mean, obviously, sort of. This whole situation is just devastating, and people have dealt with it differently. I mean, I've been fortunate and grateful for what I've been allotted. So for me, there's a certain sense of wanting to connect with people, kind of being grateful for certain things, and also feeling completely down about 2020 in general, but also what some other people have gone through. So for me, it's a weird feeling. And anxiety wise, I guess like the it's just sort of weird to kind of interact with people again slowly. You know what I mean? Like, you have your circles, and a job or whatever, if you're fortunate to have one. But I think the moments where you're just randomly meeting people, or I've had random conversations just doing laundry, man. And I'm like, oh, like what do I say? Where do I put my hands?
It's I think it's interesting now, like we're so used to seeing people in masks. Like maybe when it first started, it was like even on TV now, like if you watch the news, some of the news people have masks. It's interesting, I think, well, especially because you and I are on the West Coast, so it's taken a little more seriously here in California, but we definitely are used to seeing people in masks. And then it's like where we used to shake hands, it's like maybe now we'll like bump elbows or something. So it's like we're not touching, and you understand you have to keep your distance. Like it's interesting, I think, in the last 9 months of how much we've sort of adapted in realizing that like, okay, this is something we're going through, but then it's also like it's something that we're all going through. So it's not like when it first happened, it was just sort of like, wow, this seems so surreal. And now it's like, okay, well, we're getting through it, we're adapting, we all understand, and it's like no one's gonna look at you differently because you don't want to hug them or because you want to. And I think that's a sort of a testament to how people are, that we're able to adapt to such things. I think that's fascinating to me. Yeah,
I mean, I agree. I'm wondering, I don't know how anxious you get or what you're feeling now, but how, in terms of that, how do you think you're adjusting to it or feeling?
Well, it's interesting. So I have so many mixed emotions. So the thing is like I'm extremely sociable. I get that from my mother. I excel in large groups. I always have. As you know, I mean, I've seen it many a time. So yeah, like I used to run a networking event. So to me, I thrive around people. But because I'm also an artist, I don't mind spending time by myself, right? So when the pandemic first hit, I was like, well, it's like I work in film, and there's times that like I could have a week with no work, so I'm fine with getting up and working from home. But then it just became like it just went on and on and on and on. I was like, okay, I got to start being around people, but everything was closed, so like I'd have to get out of the house. So I would walk around the neighborhood, or I would drive in my car somewhere and just take pictures, just so I could like get fresh air. Just even though I wasn't around people per se, it just was I was so antsy. Right? I was feeling so to keep my sanity, but there'd also be days where I just feel like I'd get up, make breakfast, and then just go lay back down. Like it was just like, well,
Yeah, I've been
it's
there.
like there's no. So it just was such. It did take it. I mean, looking back on it now, I mean, first of all, it's surprising how fast these 9 months went. And I just remember like when it first started, I remember how long April just felt like it was never going to end.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And then all of a sudden it's like now we're having Thanksgiving and Christmas, and I was like, what the fuck just happened?
I know. It's to your point, the adapting thing. I think there's resistance to certain things, obviously, like with anybody. But over time, you just it is what it is, and you try the best that you can. So I think to your point, we all have the ability to adapt to some degree.
Well, and that's I think that's why art is so great. Is that like you're sitting here and you're like, okay, I need to do something to take my mind off of things. So I'm reading more. People are watching movies more. We definitely need more content. So, what do you want the audience to get away from watching your movie, Sunny Side Up? Like, what is the one thing you want them to walk away with?
I mean, well, I don't think I had any sort of expectations or thought. Like when I was putting this together, it was sort of just, this is kind of what I'm wanting to express, and whatever people get is whatever people get. But then after having a couple of screenings and sort of talking to people after those, what I thought was interesting was there are people that do experience something like this, and it was sort of a cathartic experience to kind of go through it and go, hey, I can show other people that this is maybe what I go through or whatever. Then there were people that were family members who were like, hey, my son deals with this, or my mom deals with this. So, this is a nice tool to use or whatever. It was like
That's good.
Informative. Yeah. But then what I found interesting were the people that don't know what this feels like or have never experienced it, didn't know that it existed or whatever.
You talk about social anxiety, right?
Yeah. Or that like self-deprecating like inner voice, or
I have that.
Okay, well there you go. But so a lot of times they come together, and a lot of people would come up after and express that they weren't aware of this. And so
that's good. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I think it's I guess what I hope that people get out of it is just a bridging the gap between understanding what somebody might go through internally and what they present externally, whether you've experienced it or not.
What's interesting is kind of piggyback on that is I remember like when the pandemic first started, there's all these memes that went out, and it's like everybody who's antisocial or has social anxiety is loving this because they don't have to be out. But then the people like me who are completely social are like, I gotta get out of this, So it's interesting to sort of see that, and it's great that there's a place that you're able to offer that to those people. Like I said, my cousin and I, we attend I usually go to a lot of horror conventions. He attended one with me, and he has social anxiety, and he was okay, but there'd be times he's like, I have to get out of here. I have to go outside to get fresh air. I have to go back to the room. And I'm like, okay, like to me, I'm fine. Mm-hmm. Right. I'm like, you go have fun. I'll walk around when you're ready to go. But I remember like how debilitating he would like slowly back up against the wall and just be like, I have to get out of here. And you could like literally see his skin crawl.
Well, oh really?
Yeah, to an extent. I mean, I understand how debilitating it is. And social anxiety is.
I mean, and in the film, it's not necessarily the degree that I am always at. I don't know if I've necessarily like hit that level. So I also want to be sympathetic to those that have it to that extreme. Yeah. So I have varying levels, and it depends. Like if I'm around a lot of people a lot, I think I'm fine, and I enjoy talking to people. I mean, that much is clear. So so there's that aspect. But then when I'm editing for like months on end, or when I'm, writing by myself or whatever, then those feelings start to creep up for me, because then let's say we would hang out or something. I'm sure the first couple of minutes I would be just thinking, am I coming off like a weirdo right now?
The good thing is that I always come off as a weirdo, so I just own that.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Well, because I have a shit ton of energy. So I mean, I come at people like a wrecking ball. I don't mean to. I just have and I talk fast, and I'm just like, I'm driven solely by passion. So sometimes people are like, oh, well, you're a lot to handle, and I know that about myself. So I tell people all the time, I go, I'm a lot of energy, but it's like good energy. It's just.
Oh, sure. I mean, everybody meshes with everybody differently, but I mean, I think you're super fun. So.
Oh my God, I love being super fun.
Yeah,
I think you're super fun too.
Oh, thank you. No, I think we mesh well together. Like I said, it depends on the group too. But I think you introduced me to like you had Jeffrey on, and you had introduced me to him like way back when, a couple other people, and it was great meeting everybody. So it just depends on the social setting, I guess.
And I think that's true. I think if you're around people that like if you're going out with friends, it's different than if you're going to like sometimes in our industry we have to just go to things, and there's people there we don't know, and so like you're already like, I don't know anybody, they don't know me as a person. And so, like, I think you are already heightened when it comes to like being around people, and then, so you're right. If you're out with like,
a little exposure therapy, I guess.
Yeah, so I can understand how that's, even if like you go to one event with like one or two people, you kind of can fall back on them, and you're like, okay, well, I'm feeling a little anxious, so you can take a step back and let those people kind of talk, and which is kind of cool. But yeah, I can see like if you're in an awkward situation where you're by yourself. Yeah. Or something, especially around people you don't
know. In terms of work, like there's a presentational aspect, right? So we're all sort of like writers, actors, whatever. So I think in those settings, I think you can put on whatever you need to put on to get through the day. Yeah. But like when it's something a little more intimate, let's say, even whether you have friends that you know or not, then that might be a different type of anxiety, because the anxiety that I feel when like we go to those like events or whatever is like, oh, well, these people have done this, and what have I done, and how do we match up, and that's what they want to know, right? Yeah. So that's a different type of anxiety than like, oh, what do they think of me as a person, or you know what I mean?
Yeah. Does that affect you, like if you have to do public speaking?
I have done a lot of public speaking, and I think I can suppress it. But I think for me the way it works is up until we're doing it. Once I'm in it, I'm fine.
Okay, I see that.
And I can also like feed off of like whatever energy is happening in the room and kind of play off of that. So I'm totally good with that. But the lead up to it and like whatever's going on in my head, nightmare.
Yeah, I can see that. I don't know why I excel so well. I guess it's because I grew up being a performer. Like I started singing. I had my first solo at 5. So I think just at a young age, I've just always been like in it. And I'm not saying that I don't get anxious. I mean, especially if I perform, I can get like overly anxious. But I've always been one of those people, like I can just talk in front of a crowd. Like I just can wing it. I think that's why the podcast comes so easy for me. It's just like, oh, I can just talk. I'm fine with it.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, that makes sense.
But people being socially awkward isn't lost on me, but I think sometimes I take it for granted that it becomes easy for me. So I think sometimes I forget how difficult it can be for people, and I'm like, what is like? Because I remember like with my cousin when he was having his moment, I had to stop and go, oh, that's right. I know this is hard for you. I had to, this is not hard for me. I'm not saying that I don't get overwhelmed, but it takes a lot more for me to get overwhelmed than it would for somebody like Kim or you.
Sure. Well, and I think like it also depends on like what's going on in your life at that time. So like I said, like around the passing of my grandmother, it was just a lot of like existentialism and sort of obsessing over. I mean, I was dipping into nihilism for a while, and I was dipping into different like theologies and like all this other stuff. I was just open to everything. But in doing so, sometimes you're opening up yourself to so much information that you feel a little unsure of all of it, and then you throw yourself into a social setting, and it's like, oh boy, I have a lot of stuff going on in my head type of thing.
Well, you're probably also dealing with, I I mean, dare I say mortality, maybe, in a sense? I think sometimes...
Oh,
like,
yeah,
when
I mean,
when my
that's a
grandparents died,
constant, yeah.
every year on my birthday, I'm like, damn it. Another year.
Right, exactly, yeah, that's never lost on me.
That's cool. Oh, I'm not gonna lie. I'm so proud of you for this. This is amazing. I think I was talking about Jeffrey. Like,
Thank you.
that was his directorial debut. Is this your directorial debut?
Yeah, feature-wise, yeah.
Bam! Look at this. I got all the first-time directors on this show. Loving this shit. Because I, as a director myself, like, I just know, like, the work that goes into it. And so I'm always so proud of my friends when they do it, and I'm so glad that they take the time out to be on the shows. That's always kind of cool. And
yeah, no, thank you for having me. I mean, it's cool to talk about.
And I know I record this in advance, but it's coming out, you said, December 4th.
December 4th, yep.
So this show will probably be aired by then. But what are the platforms?
I mean, primarily it's going to be Amazon and Tubi. And then there's some other platforms rolling in, but those are the primary ones.
And tell us a little bit about, like, your experience, like, being on set and your process and stuff.
Oh man, it was interesting. I mean, we shot on the East Coast, so it was like outside of Boston and like Fall River and Peabody, for those that know.
I love it over other Boston.
Yeah. So, but we shot in the heart of the winter, which I don't know, like, what possessed me to do that. So it was interesting because like, getting people on set every day was really difficult. Just
Really?
because, yeah, the amount of snowfall that was happening was insane. And so it was a tight schedule because I'd flown the lead, Hunter Davis. I'd flown him out from LA, and so he was on a time crunch. So we were trying to fit everything in.
Oh, copy, yeah.
Yeah, before we lost him. So that was really interesting. And then the other thing, which I don't know if it was good or bad, I mean, the actors could probably tell you better than I, but I had set it up so I was trying to emulate the script in real time for the actors. So since we didn't have time to rehearse, and because, Hunter flew in pretty much the day before shooting, I didn't have time to rehearse with, like, everybody that was local on the East Coast. So I set up the script and the living arrangements and whatnot to emulate what was going on. So at least the actor could experience the feelings that he was having while the character was having. Yeah. I mean, we didn't shoot entirely chronological, but what I ended up doing is the character, he goes to work and he lives his life, and then there's a period of time where he stays at home and he thinks that this is a good idea. And I set it up so that the actor never left the apartment that we were in. So,
nice. Okay, it's an interesting concept.
Yeah. So, and the neighbor that comes into the story, I had her basically living in the apartment downstairs, and I had them basically meeting, like, let's say certain days pass. I had them meeting however many days passed, right? And then each day in their relationship was like another day that I introduced them. So they were sort of getting to know each other as characters and as people.
I'm intrigued to have Hunter on the show and see how that works for him. I'd be, just from a standpoint of an actor.
Yeah, I'm curious. I mean, we've had our talks, and I know things get a little intense sometimes, but yeah. But yeah, I mean, he's great, so I'm sure he'd like to be on.
And how many days did you guys shoot?
It came out to about 20.
Okay, that's a good amount for an independent film.
It was, yeah, which was great because it gave us a lot of time to, like, get to know one another. I mean, I already knew Hunter; I'd worked with him in the past, but just like all the other actors, it gave us time, and a lot of that time was just spent, like, the moves, like I said, in the middle of winter were very difficult. So we'd be shooting in the apartment, but then we'd have to go to a funeral home for a couple of days. And so we'd make that move and then come back. So yeah, we had about like 3 weeks with Hunter, off and on shooting.
Nice. Oh man, I'm so happy for you. So, so everybody got to go check out this movie, and then we can have a whole conversation about social anxiety.
Yes.
Which would be really awesome. Is there anything else happening for you, Mr. Melo? I don't know why I called you Mr. Melo. We're not that.
Because it's very profesh, and I like it.
This is a professional podcast.
Yeah,
very professional.
Obviously.
I mean, without a doubt. Hello, it's Mimosas with Michael. Wouldn't expect anything less.
Although I don't have a mimosa, I have, like, seltzer water. It's nice.
I know, so that's the only thing with COVID is, like, I used to do it when I would do it in person. If you listen to older episodes, well, I did it where I filmed at my friend's house, and then I did it in person, and I'd actually have mimosas to those that drink. But now it's just more about spending time with people and catching up like you would do with your friends over mimosas. So now it's much more existential, I guess.
Sorry to go that direction. I don't mean.
No, I would love. Look. My goal is if I could grow the show and actually have a studio someday. I'd love to have in studio guests again and record it and actually have a real mimosa and talk. I think that energy would be great. But in the meantime, I do like the Zoom thing, or not, whatever the social media, this distance thing is, because I can actually look at you and I feel like we're having a conversation rather than like, just a voice on the phone.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Even though 8 out of 10 times, most of the people I interview, I already know.
It's really? Because, that's interesting.
Well,
I mean, you have a large Rolodex, let's say.
I do.
A little bit larger than mine, but.
Well, like I was telling you, your PR company that set up this interview, every time they send me like, we have a new movie, I'm like, what?
What? You're breaking the fourth wall here. We're friends.
We are friends.
This guy.
No. But look.
Isn't that funny though? I could have just picked up the phone and called you, but somebody had to set this up.
What's so funny? That's how I get a lot. Well, that's the thing is like, I got emailed a movie that like one of my good friends is in. We have the exact same manager, and I was like, I can just email them. But with the PR company, they can at least give me the movie to watch ahead of time.
Right.
Or at least, and they give me the assets for the show.
No, sure.
But it's so interesting. But like I said, that's why I said 8 out of 10 times I usually just reach out to people.
Yeah.
But it is nice to have other people to help me, because I don't always know what everybody.
Oh no, yeah, it's great, yeah, and they're great too. But I just think it's funny because we do know each other. When they told me they're like, "Hey, we're gonna set this up," I'm like, "Oh, I guess I could have done that."
Yeah, but I mean, it's a good thing. But the thing is like I know that when they email me and I see what the movie is, sometimes I actually recommend them to other podcasts and press as well. So that's always. I mean, I know a lot of people, but I of the amount of people that I know, I don't always know what you guys are doing.
True. And yeah, I mean, it's been a while. I mean, I was on the East Coast. I didn't get to see you for a minute. I mean, I've been back in LA for a while, but under these circumstances, of course. So
you guys are hearing it here first. He came back and didn't reach out. I'm just messing with you. I'm messing with you.
It's true.
I didn't do it either, so I'm just as bad.
We couldn't have done anything anyway. I guess a phone call, right? I guess let's start with the basics.
I love it. This is actually really great. So if you listen to I think maybe the last 6 episodes of my podcast, it's literally me reconnecting with people I haven't seen in a while.
That's great.
Like almost every single person, it's like, I haven't talked to you in a while. Do you want to? And then I already know that they're doing stuff, so it's like, it's a good excuse to kind of catch up with them, which is what I love about the show. That's what Mimosas with Michael is to me. It's like catching up on a Sunday, having drinks and just sort of what's going on in your life. Here's what's going on in mine. And it's and the audience likes that because they get to hear silly stories of stuff that we've done and little anecdotes, but then they also hear about, this really cool thing you did, which is you directed your first feature. I think it's after you.
I had a question for you because I mean I remember seeing I know. No, I remember seeing You Can Call Me Eve and in play format. But
did you go see my play?
I did, yeah.
Holy shit! Have I known you that long?
Yeah, it was great. But are you turning that into a production, like a film, or what's?
I have a feature script. It hasn't been made yet, but I do have a feature script. Yes.
Really? That's pretty huge.
So here's the thing. So, oh my God, I can't believe I've known you that long. That play was produced in 2011.
Yeah, I mean, I think we probably met through Robert. I think so. I've known that guy since 2008. I think so. That makes sense.
Wow. You guys, I'm so old. This is the dark side of the podcast. Is when you find out that all these memories that I have, the dark side. I'm so old. I digress. Yes, the play. So during the play. So the story was about this woman who just lost her husband, and through the whole play, she was getting ready for his funeral, and then you find out at the end that he died. But and she breaks the fourth wall because she talks to the audience. That wouldn't work in a movie, and I tried to write the script like that, and I was like, it wasn't the same. So what I did do for the feature is the movie in the script starts where the play ends, which is she goes to her husband's funeral, and then the story actually. Yeah, so the story basically, like, you're learning who Eve is now and then who she was in the past. So these two parallel storylines, which I love. So it's like I spent 5 or 6 years getting that play done, writing it. It went through, you know, several readings and workshops and formats and stuff to get where it was at. And then it was like I had to literally take that story and kind of go from scratch again to rebuild it, because I had, you know, I learned who we spent so much time learning about who Eve was in her past. I never explored her going forward in the future.
Oh, so
to me, it was like it's like a whole other story. And so
that's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's actually really, really good. I want this movie made so bad because it's an all Latin cast. Like, it's, you know, it's older Latina woman, plus you have the younger version of her. So
no, I mean, it was great. It's also, I'm sure, a nice exercise to sort of explore the characters that you've already lived with and kind of just see how they've evolved, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because that was my story about was why the whole point of the movie was why she changed her name to become a new woman. But then the play didn't really need to go forward, right? But but I was able in the movie to explore both her past and her present, and I love that. I loved learning who I knew who the old Eve was. That was the whole point of the script, but I never got to learn who the new Eve was. And she's one of my favorite characters I think I've ever written. I mean, for me to write a 60-year-old Latin woman, as like, at the time I wrote it, it was in my 30s, mid 30s. So for me to write, like, I'm a 30-year-old white gay guy. For me to write like a 60-year-old like Latin woman was just like a challenge in itself. And people are like, "How'd you write that?" And I go, "Well, I mean, I guess maybe because I'm gay, I think like a woman, but she's based a lot on my mother. She's based a lot on my grandmother."
Interesting.
And teachers that I've had. So I wrote it like that. But then I also grew up next to a Latino family. So I was very familiar with, like, I spent a lot of time with them. So and living in Southern California is great because we're around the Latin culture a lot. So I was really able to that's why we workshopped it. I would bring people in and be like, "Is this authentic for you? Does this feel right?" And they would be like, "Oh no, we wouldn't do this in the culture." So, I mean, I think that's why it feels real, is because it drew on a lot of, like, people's life experiences and things.
Yeah, and I think if you write something like that, you know, the cliche is write what you know, right? But I think part of that is what you don't know, find out and research and you know, try to put your personal experiences into it. So I think to do something like that is tricky, but if you do it respectfully and honor, and like you said, talk to a bunch of people. I mean, I really enjoyed it. Spoke to me. So I thought it was interesting when I saw that, and I was like, "Oh, you're going to do something further with that? That's pretty."
I would love to. Yeah.
Cool.
It's just one of those that's going to take a while because it's just there's nothing like it right now. Especially it's a lot, and it's a big movie. I mean, it covers over, I think, five different decades, because it really does go through. Like, it starts. I mean, there's snippets, but I mean, it definitely does cover many areas of her life, and I love that. I mean, it's a true human story, and I really want to do it well. But it's going to happen, and then I'll be on podcast talking to people about it.
Hey, yeah. Hell yeah.
How exciting. I can't believe you brought that up. That's so crazy. I forgot you went to but now you mentioned it, I do remember being there. Yeah.
It was pretty neat. Yeah.
Thanks, man. Well, I know I said this before, it always goes fast, but our time is up.
Sweet.
It goes fast.
It's been a pleasure. Hopefully our time has not been up as friends, but I'm okay with... Bro,
it is really, really great to see you. I'm sorry that it's been so long, but you know.
I know, likewise.
But look what you did. Look what you've accomplished in that time. So this is good stuff.
Yeah, no, and you know, more to come. I think there's some other stuff that's going to come out in a couple of months, so keep an eye out for that.
With you? Well, hopefully this time you can tell me. You don't have to have your PR people tell me.
We'll set something up.
I will say it was the funniest thing when you messaged me. I think you messaged me through Facebook, and you're like, "Is this one of those moments where it's my people are hitting up your people?" I was like, "Yeah, I guess it is." So it's very fascinating. So where can people find you? Where can we find Mike?
I am terrible at social media. I really am. I mean,
you can't be. That's why you have PR people. That's why you have PR.
Exactly. I spend so much time in production and writing and like whatever, and these things take a long time, as you know, that I get so focused in because I direct, I edit. So it's for me to do all this other stuff. It's like a full-time job. But I am on Instagram as Mike G Melo. But the easiest way is probably to go to oldmanhenry.com. That's the production company.
Okay.
So oldmanhenry.com. Yeah. drop me a line whenever.
Perfect, because then people can, and then they can get like the latest news on what you're doing, right?
Yes, yeah.
Awesome. Oh yeah, that's so exciting, man. I'm again so proud of you.
Thank you. Hey, likewise.
Well, this isn't about me. This is about you.
Hey, well, that's all right. I mean, it's why if this was a normal conversation, we would be talking about you as well. So
I know, but can I just tell you, every time I edit these episodes, I'm like, guys, talk so much, and I love that the audience likes that. But it's like I don't know. It's interesting, but it's interesting because, like I said recently, I've been catching up with a lot of people, and so it's like I interviewed my friend Leon, and we did a movie together. He kept bringing up things I completely forgot about, and I was like, oh my god. So it's interesting, fascinating that where we are right now with the show is that I'm reconnecting with a lot of people, and they're reminding me of stuff that like I was like, oh my, I hadn't forgot about that, or it's just like I get to have this nice great rapport with the audience, so they get a lot out of the show too.
Sure. Oh yeah. I mean, you're the anchor, right? So it all goes through you.
Sure, we'll go with that. I'm the anchor. Maybe that's why I feel stuck. I'm just kidding. God, I'm so.
Well, we can talk about that further in person, or off of this.
You're awesome, man. I'm so glad I get to catch up with you again.
Yeah, likewise, man. It's you're always a breath of fresh air. I mean, it was always fun hanging out with you. So
I do try to be a breath of fresh air. That's why we're in mint cologne. No, just kidding. All right, well, everybody, please check out Sunny Side Up, directed by Michael. Well, I guess you just go by Mike. I go by Michael. You go by Mike.
I go by Mike. Yeah.
Mike. Available actually on Tubi and Amazon and other places, or you can go to oldmanhenry.com. Did I say that right? Old Man Henry.
Old Man Henry, yeah.
Jeez, it's like I've done this before. Professional. And then you can check out Mimosas with Michael on iTunes. We're available on Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and Instagram TV. Please like the show and spread the word and help everybody get out there and watch this awesome movie. I'm so proud of you again, man.
Thank you so much.
Hey, and stay safe, okay?
Oh, you too. Couple more months.
Couple more months. We got this, you guys. Take care, everybody. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.